watch a bad movie, you have a mental breakdown, you run off into the woods laughing like a maniac. Then you do that for like a month till you get it out of your system.
Okay, I guess that makes sense in a weird, stupid way. But you better get over here and see this.
Alright.
Yes! Feed me, tiny mortal men! I am your god, and you're my tiny crushable subjects! Blood for the bad god! How did this happen?
I don't know, I just figured it was something he did.
You figured that paper bag just grows to massive size and starts rampaging through cities.
Does that really sound out of the realm of possibility? Have you seen these videos?
Okay, fine. Well, how do we stop him?
I don't know. It's not my problem. But it does give me a good idea for a video.
But by definition, it is your problem. He's your sidekick.
Alright, look man, I really don't want to deal with this right now. I'm tired and I got a video to make. Just keep an eye on him, make sure he doesn't walk into a nuclear plant or something. He'll be fine.
You can't leave me here.
Yeah, I can. It's in your contract.
I have a contract?
Rampage is a 2018 science fiction monster movie, directed by Brad Peyton. Best known for his work on other films such as San Andreas, that movie about a giant earthquake, and Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore. No, really, I'm serious. The film stars professional bald guy Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson alongside a cast of relative nobodies, including Naomi Harris, Jake Lacey, and Malin Ackerman. You don't know who any of those people are either, don't lie to yourself. The film was based on a 1986 arcade game, which Warner Brothers had acquired the film rights to after purchasing the developer, Midway Games, making this a video game movie. Keep in mind, this was made before things like the Sonic movies. Video game movies were still seen as disasters waiting to happen. Think of things like the Silent Hill movies, or the Tomb Raider adaptations. If you've never heard of this game, then don't worry, I hadn't either. In fact, I don't think anyone had. Turns out it was actually a very successful game on release, going on to spawn multiple ports and sequels, which I had also never heard of. The film had a strangely uneventful production, beginning principal photography in mid-2017 and releasing in 2018. The movie was actually somewhat successful, grossing around $400 million against a $100 million budget. Also, for some reason, Wikipedia felt the need to break the audience demographics down by race. According to Wikipedia, 41% of viewers were Caucasian, 21% Hispanic, 19% African American, and 14% Asian. I have no idea why this was listed, do with this information what you will. The only other thing of note I could find regarding this movie was that in March of 2018, Warner Brothers was threatened with a lawsuit by German filmmaker Uwe Boll, who you might recognize as the psychotic mind behind another video game movie adaptation, the Postal movie. Apparently, he was upset over this film's title because he had previously directed and produced an unrelated trilogy of movies also called Rampage, and was worried that this film could damage his brand. My brother in Christ, you do not need to worry about someone else damaging your brand. You've got that covered. Nothing ever seems to have come of the lawsuit, though, or at least I couldn't find anything. Tell me if I'm wrong down in the comments. Other than that, though, that's really all there is to the film's history. It released, made some money, and then it was completely forgotten. But is that really all there is here? Just another weird video game adaptation lost to time? Like the Doom movie? Or the Hitman movie? Or the Warcraft movie? Or the Assassin's Creed movie? Or any of the stuff they did with Resident Evil? Well, there's only one way to find out. So, let's take a look at Rampage. Roll film. The movie opens with a logo. Alright, Warner Brothers. They used to be good. Keyword, used to. After the logos, we get a random PowerPoint slide about CRISPR, which is not some kind of dating app for people obsessed with fried chicken, but is actually a real thing discovered in the 90s used for gene modification. Doesn't make it any less of a stupid name though, and I'm gonna make fun of it at every available opportunity. Anyway, stupid names aside, we now cut to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. I know this seems like a weird start to a movie about a giant gorilla, but Yeah, no, I got nothing. This is a weird start to a movie about a giant gorilla. Here we're introduced to Astronaut Lady, played by Marley Shelton, best known for being the producer's wife.
Nepotism is alive and well.
Apparently, Astronaut Lady can't escape the sinking spaceship until she retrieves some random canisters. This is complicated considerably by the presence of some type of giant mutant rat thing. With the required MacGuffins in hand, Astronaut Lady manages to narrowly escape the gross fleshy paws of the giant rat thing and makes her way to the escape pod, again narrowly escaping the exploding space station. Alright, well, seems like Astronaut Lady's gonna be a pretty important character going forward. I wondered if... Oh! Okay, never mind. So now that we've witnessed this random character die an excruciatingly painful death, let's cut to The Rock in his natural habitat, alongside these three random unimportant characters. There's random nerd guy, played by the son of Dennis Quaid, random pink-haired lady, played by lady who was in this movie and nothing else, and random sidekick guy, played by guy who was in this movie and nothing else. Don't get used to any of these characters, because they completely disappear from the plot after the first 10 minutes. With the unimportant side characters out of the way, now it's time to introduce our main protagonist, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. His character has a name, but come on, it's The Rock. It's always The Rock. Name a single character he has played. You can't because it's The Rock. He's The Rock and that's what I'm calling him. Anyway, turns out we're not actually in the jungle. We're in California, which is only slightly worse. Apparently The Rock is a primatologist. That's a monkey scientist, basically. And these randos are his students, except for this guy. He's a completely irrelevant sidekick character. You remember Chris Pratt's character from the Jurassic World movies? Yeah, that's The Rock's character in this movie, right down to the mannerisms and the specially colored animal friend. This is George. He's an albino gorilla. You might recognize him from the poster. Despite being the main focus of the movie, George doesn't really have a character outside of gorilla who can do sign language. But at least he knows how to give the finger. That's pretty funny. I shouldn't laugh at a monkey it's not a monkey. I shouldn't laugh at a gorilla flipping people off, but that's funny. So anyway, after a completely necessary scene of pink-haired lady trying to get with The Rock, really creepily actually,
I would love to learn more about those submission techniques.
The Rock then flees the scene, disturbed by the presence of a woman. Hashtag relatable. Remember random astronaut lady and those MacGuffin boxes? Turns out the MacGuffin boxes have fallen to Earth, and because it's never good when things fall to Earth, they start releasing some kind of weird gas onto some random animals, including George. This is what we in the business call an inciting incident. The very next day, Rock returns to the zoo to find that for some reason George has killed a grizzly bear, and has also decided to hide away in this cave like a mopey teenager. He's also like bigger or something, but I genuinely couldn't see anything different. I don't know, maybe my own massive size has skewed my perception of height. Also, Rock and friends have found one of those MacGuffin boxes. It's a brick! So now we cut to Chicago, which, again, is only slightly worse than California. It's time to meet our main villains. Meet generic corporate bad guy 1 and 2, played by Malin Ackerman and Jake Lacey, respectively, who you might recognize from... Oh my god, are there any real actors in this movie? Lack of recognizable talent aside, the Corpo twins are upset over their spaceship falling out of the sky. Apparently those random MacGuffin bricks were part of some type of secret experiment known as Project Title Drop, and now they're gonna send out their generic evil corporate mercenaries to go find them. Speaking of generic evil corporate mercenaries, meet the generic evil corporate mercenaries, and their leader, Burke, played by Joe Manganiello. I don't think I said his name right, I'm sorry. Best known for his work in... Oh god, finally someone with an actual career, I was starting to get worried. So the Mercs head off to Merc, and now we cut to... Los Angeles, California. Sure, buddy, sure. This is what a house in LA looks like. Yes, absolutely.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to my Los Angeles house tour. We got a cat. It's been a lot of hard work to get to this point, but you know me. I've been on that Sigma grind set, waking up at 5 a.m., journaling, liquidating all my assets, investing in only the shadiest of cryptocurrencies. Hashtag catcoin. Buy it. Please, I'm desperate. But now, finally, here it is, my LA dream home. Oh!
Anyway, time to meet another new character. Kate, played by that witch lady from Pirates of the Caribbean. Her scene is over now, I guess, so back to the Mercs. They've apparently found one of the MacGuffin bricks, but they've also found a whole lot of free wolf meat. So that scene is over, back to Rockin' Friends. My god, what is with this pacing? We keep jumping from scene to scene, yet nothing has actually happened, and we're almost half an hour into the movie.
Someone with attention deficit disorder edited this film.
Sidekick guy is still pretending that he's an actual character, and tells The Rock what we already inferred. George is mutating and growing at a rapid rate. That Kate lady then shows up and decides to actually be a part of the movie. Apparently she works for the Corpos and knows about the MacGuffin bricks, again telling us what we already know and saying how the brick mutated George. Would anyone else like to walk in and restate the obvious? Anyone else? Come on, we're all doing it! Step right up! So that CRISPR stuff from the opening is vaguely relevant again, because now we get a whole exposition dump from Kate about how she's a less interesting Bridget Tannenbaum from BioShock and invented gene editing or something. She also promises that she can cure George somehow, but that shameless exposition dump has infuriated him, and he breaks free to go on a rampage.
Hey!
George's escape actually causes the police to show up, but because he's white, they don't shoot. These Fed guys who show up out of nowhere don't see race though, so they shoot him anyways. I shouldn't be surprised really, if there's one thing Feds are good at, it's shooting animals. George isn't a dog though, so they just trank him, and now we're back to the Mercs, because pacing is really just a suggestion when you think about it. The Mercs have been looking for a wolf that apparently came into contact with the MacGuffin bricks, and they seem to have found it, but something seems a little off. So of course, they immediately decide to land their helicopter and try to get closer. This will only end well. Having landed and disembarked, the Mercs make their way into the creepy, fog-covered forest to try and find this dangerous animal. But they don't seem to be able to find anything, and oh, look at that! Told you this would end well. Honestly, I'm just happy that something is finally happening. We're 30 minutes into a giant animal monster movie, and yet this is the first actual giant animal monster we've seen. We also get a nice pile of gore that I'm gonna have to censor, the sight of which causes Burke to understandably flee in terror, before then getting chased by the giant wolf. He actually manages to almost reach the escape chopper, but then this happens.
How's the war going for you guys?
I can't wait to go back home and see my mom.
Well, those guys are dead. I wonder how Burke is gonna get out of this. I mean, he seemed like an actual character. He must have some type of role in... Oh god, okay then, that just happened. Well, I guess the Merc subplot is done. Let's get back to the protagonists and see what they're doing. Turns out Rock and Kate have been taken by the Feds, alongside a captured George. They're all gonna be loaded onto a plane headed somewhere. I'm not actually sure where they're going or why. But at least we get to meet this movie's last real character, Fed Guy, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, best known for his work as that one guy with the baseball bat on The Walking Dead. Fed Guy is an incredibly one-dimensional character, as you can probably guess by how I'm not using his actual name and just calling him what he is. This is kind of a common theme with this movie, characters being completely flat, one-dimensional shells that fill a designated trope. The bad guys are generic evil corpos, The Rock is a hardened loner with a mysterious past, Kate is a woman, you get the idea. Heck, like I said earlier, even George, the movie's literal poster boy, is barely a character in his own right. He's a living, breathing plot device. We kinda get some character depth here in the form of some meaningless backstory, like how The Rock was apparently in the Special Forces, or that Fed Guy works for, quote, the other government agency, which I'm gonna assume refers to the US Department of Red Shirts, for reasons that will become apparent soon. I digress though, blink and you miss it, plot developments are happening, so let's get back to those. Turns out, Kate is a liar. She doesn't work for the Corpos, in fact, she was fired by them, and can't even actually cure George. I for one am just shocked by this out of nowhere betrayal of trust from a character I was totally connected to and totally cared about. I can't believe it. It's utterly shocking. What was her name again? Meanwhile, back at Corpo Plaza, Thing 1 and Thing 2 are discussing their plan for- Hang on, wait a minute! Is that a Pop-Tart koozie? He has a Pop-Tart koozie? How come I never thought of this? Is this just a thing I wasn't aware of? He's got a Pop-Tart. He's got a Pop-Tart and a Pop-Tart koozie. Is that just a drink koozie? It is, isn't it? I have like a dozen of those things. Why didn't I ever think of using them for Pop-Tarts? The idiots in this movie are geniuses. Anyway, revolutionary Pop-Tart technology aside, the Corpo twins can't just let their science experiments roam freely, as that's not profitable. So Thing 1 has devised a plan to capture the creatures and use them to make bank off the military-industrial complex by selling the weaponized DNA. You see, much like your average person, the animals have been mutated to be hypersensitive to irritating noises and flashing lights. So the plan is to use this radio tower to broadcast weaponized baby shark across the airwaves. The mutant animals will be unable to resist the siren song and will beeline for the tower, desperate to shut it off. Then the military will kill the creatures and the Corpo twins will sell off the mutated carcasses. A genius plan, really. I see no way that this could possibly backfire. So the Corpos put their plan into action as the signal reaches both the wolf and the smallest gator in Florida. It also awakens George from his government-mandated sedation, and he is understandably furious to be in the presence of feds, escaping from his cage to go on a mid-air rampage.
Hey!
Turns out loading a giant, unstable, hyper-violent animal onto an airplane and praying you pumped it full of enough drugs to keep it calm wasn't that good of an idea. Who would have thought? The feds attempt to do something productive for once, but remember, these guys are from the Department of Red Shirts, so I think we all know where this is going. The feds get predictably stomped. Maybe if their guns actually cycled, they might have had a better chance. Fed guy is a named character though, so he manages to survive. Well, I say survive. He actually gets thrown across the plane by George and presumably has his spine crushed into a fine powder by the impact. Oh, and then half the plane blows up. Yeah, some random explosive barrel that I guess was just there got shot in the chaos and now the plane is going down. Unfortunately though, because this movie can't have interesting things happen for an extended period of time, George gets forklift certified, Rock and pals parachute out of the plane, and then the scene is over. Hope you liked that whole action sequence because we're not getting another one for a while. Now we get some minor plot developments like how Fed guy can somehow still walk. Again, his spine should be gone. And keeping with the theme of improbable survival, George survived the plane crash and is now free to roam. After a completely pointless scene of the Corpo twins, we then get Rock's tragic backstory. Turns out, people are awful. That's it. That's his backstory. People are awful, he hates them, and monkeys are cooler. That's why he rescued George from poachers.
Whoa! That's interesting, but I sure don't care.
Alright, well, that didn't really matter all that much, but hey, we also get Kate's tragic backstory. Maybe she'll have something interesting to say. Well, to make a boring story short, her brother got sick and died, and now she blames the Corpo twins because she went to jail for trying to expose their company for selling weaponized DNA. The lesson here? Morals are cringe. Don't interfere with the military-industrial complex. You will not live to see tomorrow. Alright, now that everyone's pointless backstory is out of the way, let's get back to what passes for a plot in this movie. I hope something happens soon because this might be the most boring giant monster movie ever made. Like seriously, it's kind of amazing how uninteresting this movie is. Watching paint dry has more action than this film.
Oh boy, this is riveting!
Anyway, now we're in Illinois. Here, Rock and friends meet up with Colonel Whoever, who is a character in the loosest possible definition of the word, played by Demetrius Grouse, who is an actor in the loosest possible definition of the word. Rock and friends try to explain how the giant animal monsters are being lured to Chicago by the Corpos, because they have managed to somehow intuit their plan. There is apparently an antidote for the murder monsters, though, that will make them just regular monsters, and Rock and friends think they should break into the Corpo evil lair to retrieve it. Colonel Whoever doesn't really buy their story, considering how it kinda sorta sounds completely insane, having the two of them escorted out of the building. Rock and friend decide they need to get to Chicago, so Rock beats up some random NP dudes just doing their jobs, and now they're gonna steal a helicopter. Unfortunately though, the Grand Theft Heli is interrupted by the sudden reappearance of Fed Guy. He initially appears hesitant, asking the Rock if he actually has any sort of plan as to how to stop the giant indestructible murder monsters. Rock says he has concepts of a plan, and that's enough for Fed Guy, who I guess has had a change of heart and hands over the keys to the helicopter. You might think this makes him the good Fed or something like that, just because he had a half-baked redemption arc. But remember kids, the only good Fed is one who has been reduced to a fine red mist by your personal home defense Claymore Roomba. God-given home defense rights aside, Rock and friend fly off in... well, not style, but something, I guess, while Fed Guy goes to see what Colonel Whoever is up to. Turns out what he's up to is napalming giant animals and sending people out to die in the dark, scared and alone as they're ripped to shreds by an unseen adversary. Pretty standard army stuff, really. This found footage soldier slaughter is kind of a neat scene, if nothing else just because something is finally happening, even though it kinda just feels like I'm watching Middle East combat footage from 2008. You know, it's been like 5 minutes without The Rock being on screen. We should really be getting back to that. Oh, there he is, thank the Lord. I was really getting worried for a second there. I thought the other characters would actually have a chance to do something. Regardless though, seems like Rock and friend were too late, as George and the Wolf have already reached Chicago and have begun to run amok.
Hey! Wait, what? Oh my god, where am I?
I wouldn't blame you if you couldn't tell that's what's happening though, because, you know, it's Chicago. When doesn't it look like this?
Well, I mean, again, it's Chicago. Nothing of value will be lost.
Alright, time for the court-mandated epic climax. Oh my god, finally, some giant animal mayhem. This is what I've been waiting for. How long have we been sitting here for now? An hour? And we're just now getting to this? My god, it's like they didn't know what kind of movie they were making. This entire movie is supposed to be based around giant animals destroying stuff, and yet we've only just now actually got any kind of chaos and destruction. It's not even that good. I'm more interested in the sound of the GAU 8 Avenger being used to try and stop these giant furballs than any of the stuff they're actually doing. Hey, maybe it'll get better though. The giant alligator has finally made an actual appearance. Remember that thing? It was foreshadowed in a single scene. I made a throwaway joke about Florida, and then both me and the movie never mentioned it again. Yeah, I don't either, but hey, it's here now, and it's already killing innocent civilians.
Run! It's Godzilla! It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not.
So now that we've got our terrible triplets together and ready to go, we get some more scenes of senseless destruction, including some shameless product placement and 18 million of your tax dollars getting bitten in half by hyper-realistic Bowser over here. Seeing the absolute chaos unfolding around him, Rock decides it's time to put his concepts of a plan into action. And he's gonna have to move quick, because Colonel Whoever doesn't want to have to give out VA benefits for all the soldiers who survive fighting the murder monsters. So he moves forward with his totally well thought out plan. What's his plan, you may ask?
My resolution? Airstrikes. Bomb them. Bomb them. Keep bombing them. Bomb them again and again.
Yeah, so he's just gonna drop a Moab on American soil, the largest and most powerful non-nuclear weapon in the infinitely expansive US arsenal, which sounds pretty bad, but again, Chicago. Just think about it. Are we really losing all that much? Apparently we're losing a lot in the eyes of Fed Guy, who is still pretending he has a conscience and tattles to Rock about the rapidly approaching Moabs, before riding off to join in on the complete destruction of Chicago. Speaking of Chicago, let's cut back to that mess. Rock and friend have landed and located the evil Corporal hideout. Turns out they've only got 30 minutes before complete and total destruction, but this is a poorly written action movie, so 30 minutes is probably closer to like a couple of months. While Rock and friends search for the antidote, the Corporal twins attempt to GTFO, or go furly fast out, as the kids say. Before they can make their escape though, they notice the protagonist trying to be protagonists. Rock and friends have actually managed to find the antidote in convenient pen-shaped form. Seems like they found it pretty quickly, not really a whole lot of challenge. Ah! White people jump scare! So the Corporal twins hold our protagonists at gunpoint, demanding that they hand over the antidotes, which they do. Rock refuses to go with them though, and gets himself a new stomach hole for his troubles. Oh, also side note, the antidotes don't change the animals back to normal, it just makes them not aggressive. This is mildly relevant and I had to bring it up somehow, and this was the only way I could think of. Don't worry, this explanation is just as clunky in the movie. The twins attempt to escape with their hostage, but the murder monsters conveniently show up to interrupt, yeeting this random helicopter pilot into the Aether. Also, Rock is still alive. Yeah, I honestly don't know why they tried to pull a fake out death with Rock. We know he isn't gonna die, he's the main character. Scratch that, he's the only character. You look me dead in the eye, and you point out any of these other characters. You can't? Yeah, I know, cause I can't either! So anyway, turns out they were able to snag one of the antidotes. So now the plan is to give George the antidote and have him fight the other two. You may be wondering how exactly they're gonna deliver the antidote to George, considering, you know, everything. Well, luckily Corporal Lady stayed behind, so Rock and friends drop the antidote into her purse and lure George over, who then proceeds to pick up Corporal Lady and eats her alive in one bite. Jesus Christ!
That was pretty brutal even by my standards.
Meanwhile, Fed Guy is back in the movie and intercepts the surviving half of the Corporal twins as he attempts to flee. He was going to arrest him, but instead just asks for his laptop and then sends him on his merry way. Well, that was pretty nice of him. Maybe Fed Guy did have a change. Okay, never mind then. What did I say? Never trust a Fed. Never trust a Fed. Alright, now that the main villains have both been brutally dispatched, it's time for the epic climax. I know I said that earlier was time for the epic climax, but now it's really time for the epic climax. After Rock and friends surf a collapsing building with a helicopter, yes, that really happens, no, I do not know how it actually works, just go with it. Rock and friend meet back up with George, and now it's time for one final epic monster battle. Rock grabs a grenade launcher and runs off while Kate goes to find Fed Guy. Now, I'm gonna be completely, brutally honest. This epic climactic final battle, kinda lame. It's not awful or anything, I've seen worse fight scenes, but it isn't all that interesting. It's mostly just watching gray shapes roll around on a gray backdrop while the Rock occasionally shoots a grenade or something. We do get to see a giant wolf get its head bitten off by a giant alligator though, so at least we got that going for us. Also, Rock's grenade launcher has like twice the ammo it's supposed to, and this greatly upsets my inner gun nerd. Final score, 0 grenades out of 10, unwatchable movie, never again. Again, the muted color palette is not helping this scene. Watching a gorilla beat the head of an alligator in with a truck should be epic, but because it looks like a swirling mass of gray and brown, I am not interested. There are some cool parts though, like the Rock throwing an entire bandolier of live grenades into the alligator's freaky gill things, causing the gator to explode from the inside out. This of course doesn't actually work because we've still got 15 minutes of movie left, and the gator gets back up to smack George onto a conveniently placed piece of pipe. Also, the Moabs are still on the way, so that's a problem. George is almost defeated, but the Rock finds a conveniently placed helicopter and launches the conveniently still functioning missiles at the gator, gator. A lot of conveniently placed stuff just lying around this field of wreckage, huh? Like most of the Rock's plans throughout this movie, though, this doesn't work and he nearly gets chomped in half by the average Floridian pet. Before George reappears out of nowhere and, oh god, he's stabbing him in the eye. Okay, that is nasty. Oh no! Oh, that is nasty! Oh, that was nasty. Through the eye. Alright, so the gator is finally dead and Colonel whoever calls off the Moab. Thank God those weren't dropped, otherwise the city could have been destroyed.
Did it, Patrick! We saved the city! Just think what might have happened if we didn't tell everyone about the monster!
About the what?
Saving the day comes at a cost, though. George was beaten pretty badly, and after a tearful goodbye with Rock, George succumbs to his injuries and dies. A tragic ending, but at least his sacrifice wasn't in vain. Though we may have lost George, what he did this day will never be forgotten. And his death ensured that— actually, no, not really. He's not dead. It's a fake out. I don't know why the movie did this. I guess just to maybe add some last-minute characterization to George by making him an emotional manipulator who laughs at his friends for daring to mourn him. A bold choice, really, especially at the very end of the movie. I like it. More movies should pull stunts like this. It really adds to the experience. And yeah, that's the ending. Rock gets the girl, the Fed guy is still a Fed, and now the US government has a massive mutant gorilla at their disposal that I'm sure will be used responsibly. Oh, and we have title. Can't forget title card. Okay, well, that's it. Alright, well, certainly one of the movies of all time. Kind of an abrupt ending, but like, Well, that's the film, folks, and I don't have anything clever to say. The movie is kind of lame. You're familiar with the term style over substance, where something looks cool on the outside, but inside it's actually hollow and meaningless? This movie could best be described as no style, no substance. It lacks superficial or aesthetic appeal, but also lacks any form of deeper purpose or meaning. Much like the Kardashians. There really is not much to this movie. It's the most generic, bog-standard action movie that I've seen in a long time. Maybe I'm being overly critical or something, but it's just not that fun. And fun's kind of the priority of a movie like this. If you're not fun, what are you even doing? It's not like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter where, yeah, it's not great, but it's still fun to watch. Rampage is just not great and not fun to watch. The characters range from flat to even flatter. The action kinda sucks, and the paper-thin plot takes forever to get going. There's nothing technically wrong with it. It's not offensive to my senses like some of the other things I've watched, but it's not anything special. It's just another dumb action movie starring The Rock. And if you want a dumb action movie starring The Rock, I'm sorry, but there's a whole lot of better options out there. I don't know who this movie was made for. It's not made for fans of action movies because it's not a good action movie. It's not made for fans of this game because it's not really that good of an adaptation of the game. I don't even know what this movie's point is, really. I don't know. Overall, it's just a kind of boring movie with nothing special to it. If you want to watch it, I guess I wouldn't stop you, but I'm also not going to recommend it to you. I give this movie a final rating of 4 gorillas out of 10. Now that's done, let's go check back in with Grace. Alright, how's he doing?
You have no terror upon this cursed day! I am Velvet Red! Destroy the world!
He's still rampaging.
Yeah, honestly didn't expect that. I thought he would have gotten tired by now.
Well, what do we do?
Honestly, I still plan on doing nothing.
But he's destroying a city.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Hey guys!
Paper bag!
Dude, what the heck was that?
Oh, the giant city destruction thing? I don't know, I just thought it would be cool.
You caused millions of dollars of property damage!
Classic paper bag. Anyway, now that's wrapped up. Who wants lunch?
But
Yeah, lunch!
oh my god, are people dead?
Dude, you gotta let this go. Lunchtime!